What's happening?
Michael just said he's having some technical difficulties and I'll be on in a
Okay.
minute.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I think that's fine. I'm going to call the Economic Development Committee meeting to order for Wednesday, August 18th at 7:30. And to begin the Economic Development Committee, there's a little paragraph that I need to read, and I will hopefully not make many mistakes and do it quickly. But pursuant to Senate Bill number 2475, which was signed into law by Governor Baker on June 16th, 2021, this meeting of the Economic Development Committee will be conducted by remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Southborough's website at https://www.southboroughtown.com. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch or participate in the meeting may also do so in the following manner by finding the meeting at https://www.southboroughtown.com/remote meetings. And with that, it seems shorter, John, than when you had to read it, which is I greatly appreciate. I'm going to call this meeting to order. I don't think I have any reports as the chair. I think hopefully some of the things that we have on the agenda and the discussions that we have will further more reports in the future. So with the goal of keeping it as brief as possible, I'm not going to give a chair report right now, and then move on to the second item on there from the members, the status on the proposed downtown zoning bylaw. Marika, who might be giving this report?
Yeah, normally I think it's Julie. I'm not sure if Julie, if you have any update, but for now, I think after on Monday there was a planning board public hearing, so we are still discussing version 9, and there's no updated version from the one dated June. I think it was June 23rd, 2021. Julie, you're muted.
I think I'd figure this out by now. Thank you, Marika. And unfortunately, I was not able to attend the hearing on Monday, but Marika, I really appreciate the summary that you provided. There has not been much more of an update, except for that I've been in touch with Lisa Bracchio, and she sent out an email to Judy Barrett and me and Mimi, and we are coordinating a date, it looks like for the week after next, to come together on the final issues, because there are still some outstanding issues, and unfortunately there's not been movement on those that we want to get on the same page on. And I agree that we really have to get these in order so that we can have a final bylaw ASAP, and hopefully design guidelines to go with it as soon as possible, so that we can start promoting it and talking about it and sharing it with people and helping people understand what's in it. Also, I think it's really important to follow up and get the renderings done, but we can't really do that until we have the final bylaw, and I understand that's unfortunately going to create a little bit of a time crunch. I'm hoping that it can go faster. I don't know if it's just summertime or what, but it's been a little bit slowed up.
Okay, I guess what we'll do is we will wait for the planning board's comments on the most recent version, and hopefully some productive steps being taken by Lisa, our consultant, and the planning board people. So.
Yeah, I do think we were trying to schedule this meeting about a month ago, and then it just didn't materialize. And, I think vacation schedules and other things kind of got in the way. So it sounds like at the very least, I know Mimi and I have told Lisa we'd be available either of the dates that she proposed. We're trying to see if we can get Judy there as well. But we've agreed that even if Judy cannot be there, we'll go ahead and come up with our conclusions, hopefully a consensus, and then, bring those to Judy to weigh in separately if we need to. So that's where we are. I'm sorry, I don't have a better update.
No, that's perfect. I think just as long as we can keep up that momentum, and I think we had hit upon a lot of the issues earlier, and there's just only one or two smaller outstanding things to discuss.
Yeah, I think that's right. There's been, I do think we need to go back to the issue, which hadn't been one of the kind of core 4 issues about the percentage of square footage that needs to be devoted to commercial space on the first floor. I do want to revisit that issue with them as well, along with a couple of issues that I think I brought up at a couple meetings ago, that when Marika and I spoke with the folks at Land Design Architecture, that they pointed out. I had sent Judy and Adam some questions. I got some responses, but I feel like I need a little bit of clarification on those. And again, this is just to make sure it actually works. I think what happened was, we got a solid draft of a bylaw, and then we went into months of negotiation. And sometimes the negotiation meant, okay, somebody says X feet and somebody says Y feet, and we met in the middle. But when the folks and the architects at Land Design Architect went to actually draw that out in for some metrics that were put in the bylaw, it didn't work, or didn't work perfectly well. So we want to make sure that the final product is something that's, not just the perfect compromise on paper, but that it translates into something that can be constructed. So I just want to get some clarification on that as well. But I know this needs to be done timely, and, trying my best to make that happen. So I will keep you posted.
Okay, excellent. Going through next to the agenda, and this, I think both of these might involve Claire, and so with the perhaps. And Claire, I know you're on, but I understand the difficulties that might come along with giving a full presentation. Unless there's something drastically time sensitive on that, I would actually like to push off that agenda item to our next meeting, so that we can get through it and not put you through anything.
Thank you. Actually, there really isn't. The quarterly report is on the website. So so the way it ended up is the results from the Q6 report is that version 9 still hasn't been brought to town meeting, and the wastewater feasibility study has been completed, and also the cost analysis, which was the addition that we put on there because there was additional funding that we wanted to use.
Okay,
So I guess unless somebody's read the report and has some questions on it, I don't know if there's anything really that, it's all been submitted into EEA.
What does EEA stand for?
Energy and Environmental Affairs.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess if this has been, we have the wastewater feasibility study and the final EEA report that has been submitted. Is this something, Claire, that you think should be on the Town of Southborough's website on the economic development page?
It is.
It's already there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I
just
posted it there earlier this week.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think maybe it's a good idea if we haven't had a lot of time to read all it's basically 3 documents for the wastewater feasibility study. Maybe at our next meeting, when people have had a chance to read through it, in more detail, then we can kind of discuss what our next steps are, or what recommendations we would have, or what our takeaways are from that report.
Have we exhausted the funds from Weston and Sampson? And I ask because if we haven't, is it possible for them to give them, for them to give us a 10 or 15-minute presentation to walk through it?
No, all the funds have been, we had to have that done before
June
June
30th.
June 30th.
Okay. I just didn't know if there was an
I
opportunity for them
think-
to.
I don't know. I think there's kind of some confusion there. I think if you read the report, it's. I mean, first of all, it's very technical, and
Yes, that's why I'm asking for a summary, for a presentation.
and Paul Pazinski was the one who did the review on it, so that if he had any questions and the clarifications and stuff, and that's been submitted to Weston and Sampson. So, and they agreed on that, and have the changes. So and then the second part of it is just kind of their suggestions of how you could pay for this. And they're just suggestions. So all the people who were, talking on the blog and everything, saying about, well, who's going to pay for this and everything, if they would just read the stuff, they would get it. And they don't. So, it's really hurt the project, I think, a lot because of all of this reporting that has been done by these anonymous people on all the things that are wrong. And then they start talking about the drainage in the downtown area that has absolutely nothing to do with the original EDC mandate from the planning board. And it's a DPW issue. It has nothing to do with anything that was asked for in the grant.
So I think, and I noticed John has his hand raised. I think as with every feasibility study, it's always important for us to say that a feasibility just says what could happen, not that we're advocating one way or the other.
Exactly. Yes.
This feasibility study sets the stage for potential more work in the future, but does not commit the Economic Development Committee or the town or anyone to any.
Not at all. No.
So I think that's always good to refresh and do. But John, you have your hand raised.
I do. I agree with Alan. I've pretty much read through the 3 documents and they are pretty technical. Could we look into finding out how much they would charge us to come out and go over that and then decide as a committee if we want to use some of the contracted services money out of it? Because I have a couple of questions from what I've read. I want to dig into it deeper. But would that be something the committee would want to do besides me and Alan?
If you guys want to pay for it.
Well, that's what I say. Can we find out how much it would be? If it only be $200-300, it might be worth it to me to have them come out for an hour.
It's up to you guys.
So Claire, you and John makes a very good point, and Ellen does too. I'd love to find out a little bit more. Do you think you can ask them if they could do it for free first, since they did the report? And then if it turns out that we do have to pay, then we come back and ask the committee for a little bit of money?
I'll give it a shot.
The
guy's very good working with them.
One other thing I would add on to that too is that if we think we're facing that there's a lot of technical content being posted up and people just quote unquote aren't reading it, it would be interesting if we not only record that session but also to see if they're interested. And this might be a separate request, is to see that can we get a narrated presentation of like a 6-minute, like this is what it all boils down to, that the public can consume. And then if they want to dig in deeper, then they can go read the multi-page report, right? But if I face this all, it's information overload, it's filter failure. If I can watch a 6-minute video versus read a 45-page report, probably going to start with the video first.
Sure.
We might want to serve our constituents better by saying, here's a nice encapsulated version of it. If you want to dig in deeper, have at it.
Sure.
I think that's a very good point. And I did notice that there was a question from Michael in the chat. where can we see this Weston and Sampson report?
It's actually posted on the town website under EDC committee. You can choose Downtown Initiative, and there's a whole list of posted documents, and you can find 3 reports there, and it starts with WNS, so that's where you find them.
Excellent. Okay. So we've spoken about that, Claire. You got an action item to do, and maybe you can come back next time. Oh, Chris, you have your hand up?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
I think Alan and John, I affirm what they're saying. I think it's always important to get the consultant to come in and review. And I've never, in my life, I've worked with a lot of consultants. They make a proposal, but coming in and charging for the presentation of their product, I've never seen that before. They're trying to sell something. So that's one thought. The other piece is we can never stop educating our community, because information, people read half of a report and they get the wrong impression, or they just are not educated in a way that we all should be. And I think every time we get a chance to make these presentations, bring clarity, I mean, Marika has had to respond to crazy statements on the website because people have misunderstandings about who's doing what. And so we have to be vigilant to stay ahead of this. People coming in at the last minute and making comments that aren't relevant because they haven't read the documents. So every chance we get to educate the community is to everybody's advantage.
I fully agree. And I think John and Alan's point is very well taken, especially for those residents who might be looking to learn a little bit more. So Claire, an action item to work on.
Yeah, just one thing. If you can kind of, whoever has specific questions, it would be a good idea to just provide those ahead of time on that. Because don't forget, when you folks voted the second amount of money, which was the $9,000, that nobody ever mentioned anything about that, you know, and knowing that the funds were up at the end of June, and you had voted that part in like the second week of June. So for them to add the cost analysis. So the reason I'm asking for the questions is it's just, that would have been the time to say, include a summary in there. But the guy's a really nice guy, and I'm sure he'll do it. And it's just that if there's anything specific, and you know, if you're looking for it to be about like a 6, 7, 8, 10-minute presentation, I'm sure that he would have no problem doing, because don't forget, they want to be included in the next study that we do. Because the next grant is for a feasibility study for Route 9. So he kind of has an incentive to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they know this stuff. I agree with what everybody said. They put this together and they can tell us. I'm sure they would. I mean,
yep.
In the professional setting, that's what you would do. You distill it down for us and tell us what it is. So I don't know if you don't ask, right? So
yeah, no, excellent. Okay, so next up on the agenda is the coordinator's report. One of the items in there, and I believe in full disclosure, I am a employee of Mass Development. So although I'm going to be here listening when I talk to council, I'm not going to be participating in the conversation. So just want to do that for at least the next agenda item on the Mass Development grant application.
All right, thank you, Rob. I won't be very elaborate. I just wanted to say that on August 6th, I submitted the Mass Development application for real estate services technical assistance grant for Route 9. And this is kind of ties into our Route 9 application with the one-stop. This, however, is just for technical assistance with local district management implementation, meaning, for instance, to look if and how Southborough could implement a district improvement financing for Route 9, which is something we had explored earlier, and we had received a presentation about. So that's basically the extent of this, and we'll hear back hopefully sometime later this year if we're successful. The other thing I just wanted to mention is that Southborough Summer Nights is August 28th. From 5 to about 8:30, and the EDC will have a table where people can get informed about the proposed downtown district. I'm just a little bit concerned with the whole time frame, that it's kind of taking 2 months to set up a meeting with the consultant, because I think it's very, very crucial that we have a final draft. And we've kind of ironed out all those last, even though they're minor, those last issues. So if we can, I don't know who's in touch, who's the contact person with the consultant, with Judy Barrett. But if if Julie, you and I could meet with Judy Barrett and the architects to at least iron out those development standard issues, then I think that would give us a head start. But that's basically it. It's my report. Thanks.
Yeah, I agree, Marika, and I'm hoping that this meeting, but of course this meeting's just going to be the week prior to Summer Nights, which is cutting it close. And I agree, it's a great opportunity. It'd be great to have a final version at that point to share and to talk about. I'm hopeful that we can get those last couple of issues ironed out, but you're right. If the meeting's earlier that week, it's going to be cutting it really close. So, we'll do what we can. But your concern is valid.
All right, thank you.
Excellent. Does anyone have any questions about either of those reports for Marika? Nope. Okay. Excellent. So discussion items. A couple of these things are from emails that I had received, as well as one that was kind of a little bit close to my heart on it. The first one under discussion is the EDC's ability to sponsor warrant articles. Other boards, other committees can actually step forward and sponsor them. Planning Board, Board of Selectmen. We are a committee in good standing, I think, within the town. And I do not know, nor have I done the research myself, as to whether or not we as a committee have the ability to sponsor warrant articles. I'd like to actually find out from the committee if this is something that they might be interested in finding out as well. And then if we did have that, if we did have a consensus from the committee, whether or not we wanted to ask that question of town council, go to Mark Purple, or whomever we needed to do. So that's the beginning and introduction to the discussion. If anyone has any questions or concerns on that particular subject. Seeing none, since this was important to me, and as chair, maybe I give myself a little bit more flexibility. I'm going to actually ask Marika, could you ask the question of either Mark Purple or town council about the possibility of the EDC being able to write and sponsor warrants for town meeting?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, town council has a regular, I guess, meeting hour for committee members or town employees. So I think I'll pose that question and I'll get back to you at the next meeting.
Yeah, no, I just would like to know, because perhaps there are some things that going forward in the future might be important from an economic development perspective. And knowing that we can, or whether or not there's another process, I think could be useful.
Rob, I won't leave you hanging out high and dry. I support this. I think if as a committee that we're behind this, I think there's probably gravitas in showing that as a committee we're raising this as opposed to an individual. So I'm behind you on this.
Okay, and because I'm still new as the chair role, I'm going to rely a little bit on John. Should I ask for a motion to ask Marika to do this and we take a vote? Or is this one of those things where it's just kind of at the direction of the chair?
It could be both. I always err on the side of caution. I throw it out to a vote because I think it's a great idea. And that way, if anybody watches the meeting or sees anything, they can see we were unified in our request. So I would make a motion. I will make a motion to ask Marika to send a letter to town council to find out about our ability to sponsor a warrant.
I second that motion.
Okay, excellent. I'm going to go as I see them for a roll call vote. I'm going to start with Chris Robbins. You're on mute right now.
I'm in favor.
Okay, Julie,
In favor.
Alan,
In favor.
Michael,
Yes.
Matthew,
In favor.
John.
Absolutely.
I am as well. It's unanimous. I just, I think, Chris, you had mentioned earlier that education is something that we should try to do. And I think someone also said, if we don't ask, we don't know. So we might as well ask and at least find out on that. The second thing up for discussion is, while Marika was on her vacation, she was still working, which I think everyone on the committee appreciates. And she did let me know that the Board of Selectmen, and I believe, was it Alan, had taken a position on the Board of Selectmen for a meals tax. I know we had written a letter actually advocating for the meals tax that was written by a former chair, Tom Collins, back in December of 2019. I would, and there are some people who were not on the EDC at that point in time. So after this meeting, I think we're going to distribute that letter again. I think one of the things that I was concerned about was that the Board of Selectmen said they just wanted to implement the meals tax without taking it to town meeting. It has always been my understanding that the legislative body in any municipality has to take a position on anything having to do with taxes. And in a town, that legislative body is town meeting. So I would hate to be in a position of us supporting an initiative, which we support, the meals tax, without understanding and knowing that it might have to go to town meeting. So for this particular subject, I would like a discussion and a vote of the committee to resubmit the letter that we had sent to the Board of Selectmen on December 11th, 2019, to resend it to them and just ask them to confirm that, yes, the vote on the meals tax does have to go to town meeting and just can't be implemented by the will of the select board. Are there any questions on that? And had I explained everything fully?
Sorry, Rob. So just to be clear, I don't we didn't say that in 2019, did we? The 2019 letter was just in support of the meals tax, is that right?
Yes, yes.
So this time we're gonna submit that again and clarify that it's our position that this should go to town meeting for a vote,
And that we are supportive, yes.
and that we are supportive. And maybe, but do people wanna, just for the benefit of those who weren't on the committee at the time, and also to refresh our memories, because I think we took, if I remember correctly, we supported the meal tax, but we were also careful to say we don't want this to just be a blanket tax that goes into the general fund, but that it's something that is targeted for certain uses, because we don't want a tax just for the sake of a tax, as many other communities have done. The meals tax has been targeted to go towards things like economic development, or specific projects. I know other towns, I think it was Marlborough, actually used it for economic activities as well as for field revitalization, which obviously is a major issue in Southborough as well. And I know that I believe that the rec committee had asked for that, if I remember correctly. It's a couple of years ago, but I just want to make sure that before we resubmit, that the committee has an understanding of what we're submitting.
No, a very good point. And I think what we'll do is we'll make sure everyone sees the letter and kind of can understand what the meals tax is. There are a couple of new members, Ellen and Matt, I'm looking at you. Do you know a little bit about the meals tax?
I know nothing about the meal. I know I'm aware of its existence and that there's a proposal out there, but I have no background in terms of who brought the idea forward and what exactly it's intended to fund, other than economic development and perhaps other things as well. So I could benefit from that, and but I don't want to slow down the proceedings for people who already know all this. But I definitely would want to learn more about it before I would be comfortable supporting it.
Most definitely. And I can give you some of the basics, and then the letter would kind of fill some of the other gaps in. Usually there's an existing 6.25% tax on meals, and there is a local meals option tax of 0.75% that can be added by a municipality. So that's basically what is it? 75 cents on $100 meal. There are surrounding communities that have adopted this local option meals tax. And in fact, 240, when we wrote this letter in 2019, 241 of the 351 cities and towns have implemented it. And what happens is it's at the point of sale. The business themselves do not pay it. It's for the people who go in to buy a coffee or go to a restaurant. As Julie said, there are some municipalities that come up with a strategy on what to do with these funds. Like any tax, they go directly into the general fund. But in Marlborough, as Julie said, they've got both the lodging and the meals tax. The lodging tax goes for economic development. Those things that do business recruitment, because the people staying in the hotels are new to the town. For the restaurants, that money is devoted to upkeep of fields. And so on a yearly basis, their city council comes up with a strategy on how to use those excess funds. The addition of a meals tax could be used to enhance and help market our business community, as well as increase the quality of life for residents. And hopefully that's kind of what we got out in the letter. But to those people who weren't on the committee when this letter was sent back in 2019, seeing it again and maybe having a further discussion at a future meeting might be a good thing. So we'll distribute this and we won't take a vote on that tonight. Okay, let me just make a note.
Did you see Claire's question?
I did not know.
She said this is the same meals tax that was voted on town meeting in May.
Did they vote on a meals tax in May
Yeah,
at town meeting?
I believe so. I
Really?
believe it passed.
Okay, if it was, then this is a moot point.
But I'm not positive. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
It was one of the articles
Uh, uh,
of the May 22nd town meeting.
okay. Then
I think I'm gonna, let me double check that with Mark Purple to see if it passed. And but still, the other question is that I know I think the July, I forget the date, but the Board of Selectmen voted on implementing it starting January 1st, 2022. I don't think they discussed any strategy on how to use the extra funds. So that might still be something that the EDC wants to weigh in on.
well, that would make this discussion for Matt, I think a little bit more interesting. Excellent.
Certainly change the
Alan, thank you for
point of the
sending
letter.
that.
That's the discussion of it. It is that 0.75%. All we would need to figure out quickly, while any one of us can Google, I'll do it, is what the result of that particular warrant was. I attended part of town meeting. I don't recall how that one panned out.
Yeah, my apologies as well. I don't remember that either. And so this last discussion item came up from an email from Matt about the downtown zoning map. And I know this is a hot button issue that we've had lots of discussions about in the past. I think, and I've spoken with Marika about this. I believe the committee's position is to maintain the current boundaries as they are, and to not advocate for the addition of any new parcels to be added. I do understand that there was a letter sent to the planning board about this. We're not advocating for the addition of any new parcels. I think the other thing, and Marika, please back me up here, that none of the people who have split lots have actually said that they have any concerns or have asked one way or the other to change the zoning, to not be included, to not have that coverage. Is that?
That's correct.
Okay. So I think if the current property owners have no concerns with the split lots, and we are not advocating for any new additions, what we, and I think we voted on this at the planning board, we wanted to keep the existing boundaries of the downtown district as they were.
Yeah, we voted on it during the, I guess, the joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen before they sent the final, I guess, the version 9 bylaw together with the draft design guidelines and the zoning map. So we had voted on maintaining the business village district boundaries at that time.
Can I just clarify? So, I know we've spoken a lot about whether, when we submit a bylaw to town meeting, when we submit our zoning bylaw, we think that this boundary map is a separate issue. Our charge was to work with a consultant and propose to the planning board a zoning bylaw to change, the uses, the metrics, things like that, not to change anything with the map. So we see this as a separate issue. So is our position that we're not going to, we don't want the map to change with the bylaw, and also we don't support changes to the map? Or that, I'm just trying to clarify here, is that what you're advocating? Or are we saying, because I know others on this committee have said that they would support changes to a zoning map potentially if it were a separate issue?
I think And I feel like we have to reiterate this every time. And one of the first times as chair that I think I'm going to have to do it, but it won't be my last. The planning board asked us to do the zoning language. We were not asked to do the map. The map is the purview of the planning board. The current boundaries of the downtown district are not going to change whether or not this zoning goes through or not. So although we are attempting to do change and open up some of the potential uses within an area where we want to see some investment because it improves the quality of life, increases the amount of tax revenue potentially collected by the town, and can actually spur some more kind of life in the downtown, which helps everybody. I don't think we necessarily want to redo the map specifically because we were not asked to do it. I think giving an opinion that keeping the boundary as is within our purview. We think it makes sense as it is right now. Let's keep it that way. So does that make sense? And I know I've heard other people say similar things in the past, but I see, Chris, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, Robert, I think you said it, you nailed it right on the head. We've got to be very clear and concise about our role and the role of the planning board. But at the same time, I mean, I talked to Marika about this today. There are people out there who keep raising this battle flag that I think is not one, about the split lots or the threat of business. Somebody going around and buying up split lots so they can build commercial property. I think one of the things that we have to prepare for is what are the things that people are saying that are absolutely wrong. And there must be a list, or at least some of these are already being corrected now in terms of what the wishes are for the final bylaw. But the objections that people are bringing up, we have to be prepared to answer that with clarity. So we're not getting 85 people from the Lattice-Guam area presenting a case that doesn't exist. We want to make sure we're educating them that we're not changing this and it's a separate issue, and we stop we're not voting on something that deals with the split lots in the context that some people have implied. So I think it's important we address those things when we send our proposals to the planning board. I think it's important we list the things that people keep asking questions about, and there's a straightforward answer that we're in unison about saying these things aren't happening or they will be happening. So I hope that's helpful.
Marika?
Yeah, I just want to add that, we were tasked to, or the EDC was tasked to update the zoning language and allow for mixed use. Really, the only reason that we have to create a new map is because the the business village district is comprised of 3 separate areas, and we don't want to affect the change in all 3 areas. So just because we want to be focused on just the downtown, we are forced to provide a new map. But it was never the intention to alter the map to make it bigger or smaller, or and the split lot, basically now there's a lot of talk, and there's some examples of other alternative maps to solve the split lot so-called problem. But the existing bylaw already addresses split lots, and whatever we are proposing does not change any of that. So I think it's important for us to educate people on the actual bylaw and to make them see that we are just updating the uses, allowing for mixed use, but apart from that, we are not changing anything.
So, sorry, I just want to clarify, maybe add. My in the email that I sent, my view is that the simple path of least resistance would be if people are concerned about the split lot owners gaining additional rights to develop, to have their land developed in a way that's contrary to what other people might want, would be to simply not change via this bylaw any of the rights that the split lot owners have, which means potentially drawing a new map, excluding the split lots from any of the zoning changes, most notably the by right zoning versus a more onerous planning process. So that was the only point that I made that I haven't yet heard mentioned on this call. And if I'm missing the point of by right zoning versus what currently exists, I mean, my understanding of by right zoning is it's effectively you're establishing a set of rules by which people will need to comply, and if they do, there can't be any reason that the planning board would not approve, or that their build would not be approved. So that's a meaningful change, and I think if people are scared that the split lot owners are going to take advantage of that, then the simplest thing to do is to exclude them from any changes to that zoning laws, and that's what I think feels like might be necessary to put that issue to the side for the purposes of getting the bylaw passed, because it is the bylaw and the map to me they're not mutually exclusive. They have to be solved at the same time.
John,
I think that the problem with the map is, by the way, who put the alternate maps in? Was that the planning board working on it? I apologize, I missed their meeting. Was that a resident that sent those in? The alternate ideas with the split lots. So
no, I think that was Sarah, the assistant town planner, together with Don Morris, the planning.
I'm happy that they're looking at it, because as I've said since the beginning, there's very little difference between what can be done now and what can be done by the by right. So the map is the map is the map. But I think I'm glad that the planning board is looking at it, because if say the bylaw fails, which it could, it may not, the map is still going to be a problem. The problem is that pretty much the exact same things that the residents are worried about happening there can happen now, regardless of whether the bylaw goes in. The by right just says what goes into the building, whether you have a dog groomer or this, that, or the other thing. You still have the same review process by the planning board and permitting. So it's not like it's guaranteed this is going to go in. It's just what can go into the building. So the map, I'm glad that the planning board is looking at these alternate things, because if this bylaw doesn't go through, the problem with the map is still going to be the problem with the map. I wanted to go and ask on Monday, but like I said, I was unable to attend. I don't know what, I know that back in 2008, I asked Mr. Stivers, because he was on the ZAC committee. They acknowledged that there was a problem with the split lots, and they chose to do nothing about it back in 2008 in an email that the assistant town planner had sent out with the history of the map. And Mr. Morris was the chair of the planning board, was on ZAC at the time too. So I'm going to see if he remembers why they didn't change it, why they didn't see it was a problem back then, because that would help me out. I've walked it a bit, and I understand the frustration of the neighbors, and I like that the alternates are coming through, and I like that it seems to me like planning's taking more charge. It's not our charge. We were never asked to deal with the map, so I'm glad that planning is looking at it, hopefully wholeheartedly, and trying to find a solution that fits everybody. So.
We did have a comment from a participant listening in about Mr. Berger's comments and agreeing with what he said and feeling that it was spot on what he stated.
So the one thing, and this is perhaps delving into something on the planning board's purview, is it's always been my understanding that when lots are split and any type of development happens on that lot, the more restrictive of the two zoning elements takes precedent, especially when that development happens over that particular split. So on lots that are split, both half residential and half commercial, and anyone tries to develop it, once they cross that split, the more restrictive zoning happens. So that in those situations, for those people on Ladisquama, they should not have any concern about development coming in on there and being commercial, because the more restrictive zoning residential would supersede what would happen on the back of the lot. And I think that's partially why those owners of those split lots do not have any concerns. I think because we have not been asked to come up with a map defense or a brand new map, we should leave that in the hands of the professionals with the planning board, and that is their task. We wrote the zoning for them at their request. They should figure out this map. And if they ask us our opinion and come to us with a request, we should offer it and take a vote, like we did in a previous planning board meeting where he said, just leave the boundaries as they are. We already took that vote.
Robert, if I may, I agree with you, but when we tell the planning board this, my feeling is we've got to tell them this is a question that's got to be answered. We passing the baton and just saying it's your problem. We should be passing the baton and saying there has to be real clarity before this goes to town meeting of what our position is, so it puts aside the worst fears of the people that are currently expressing that we're heading in the wrong direction, because we haven't brought clarity to how we're going to deal with it, and the planning board has to do that.
Sorry, I just want to add, the clarity is in the bylaw, and I think they're trying to solve a split lot problem, which first of all is already being addressed in language in the bylaw by changing a map. And they're not even, by giving all those options, they are never going to get a unanimous approval, because some people want to be added, other people, residents don't want any expansion of the map. And in the end, they'll have they propose a map that is basically consists of 3 different zones, which creates an even more complex situation. You'll have a downtown district, you'll have a residential district, and then you'll have tiny pieces of a business village district, which make no sense to me at all. You either address the split lots, and that has nothing to do with an update of our zoning bylaw. You have to identify what is the problem of these split lots, because in the language, like Rob stated, and also what our consultant, Mr. Costa, had explained during a public meeting, he explained precisely what are all the steps someone would need to go through to be able to develop anything, if at all. And some people are just, I think, scared of change, which I understand, and it's everyone's right to have, to show their opinion. But I think the problem of the split lots is already addressed in the bylaw. I don't think a change of the map is going to solve that.
So when you would say it's addressed in the bylaw, Marika, in what way are you referring to?
Well, just like what Rob explained, that the more restrictive of the 2 zones, districts would apply. That's one. You need direct access to a main road. Adam Costa went through the whole list of things. It's not, and sometimes these discussions take place, and I feel everyone thinks they know the facts, but there is no, and they keep saying by right zoning as if now some developer could come in, buy those lots and build anything they want because it's by right zoning, which absolutely is absolutely untrue. The by right zoning that we are proposing in our bylaw just talks about the uses, because we have determined as a town, together with the consultant, that those are the uses that are desirable in a downtown. So that's why we're making them by right. So people don't have to apply for 2 separate permits, which hopefully will reduce their cost and the time to be able to develop something. They still need to go through the same process if they want to do any construction at all, whether it's a new building or changes to an existing building, they still have to go through their site plan reviews. So all these comments need to be addressed by just educating people on the actual language of the bylaw. And I think we're being distracted by the map.
Well said, Marika. And I think we have to put that statement forward in writing so the public understands it, and ways in which we can simplify the message so it just puts it aside and we can move on.
I agree. And this is, I think this is one of the reasons why I wanted to add this to the discussion. Not that we would necessarily take a vote, but I think the discussion of the map, at least in this context, is useful and beneficial, because one, it allows us to, once again, put our foot in the ground in so much that we are not looking to add any new parcels to the downtown new mixed use overlay. It also gives us an opportunity to once again speak about the role of the Economic Development Committee, which is to try to make things easier to see investment by people, whether they be residential, mixed use, or commercial, in our community. Particularly because the previous master plan laid out in black and white terms that mixed use in the downtown was one of the goals. So we are trying to fulfill the goals of the master plan, and discussions of the map, which we are not suggesting we change, and that we're encouraging the planning board to work on, is kind of where I think we're heading with that. And I think we've discussed that enough. I'm going to move on to the next agenda item unless anyone has anything else to add. Okay. Administrative business, election of committee officers. A vote might be taken on this. As of right now, I am the chair. And I would love it, love it to have a vice chair. And I've always believed that the vice chair gets to get their toes in the water and potentially move on to a next chair position. Alan, you were not here at the last meeting, so I don't think we had the discussion about whether or not you wanted to serve as a vice chair. I would like to have a second person in case for whatever reason I can't make it. If you were to be nominated, would that be something that you might consider?
I guess I missed the opportunity to turn off my video in time. I see Julie did it too quickly. So can you explain what you're talking about for vice chair? I mean, I know you just mentioned that it would eventually be the ideal successor role to the chair. Are you looking at it from a meeting to meeting support? What are you considering it to entail?
So, John, you might have to help me step up here. I'm running the meeting, kind of going through the agenda, coordinating with Marika on what ends up on the agenda, answering questions if, let's say, Mark Purple calls me. But let's say I were in Hawaii and not here for the meeting and
Right.
couldn't run the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
There would have to be someone to call it to order, take the votes, run through the agenda. That is the extent of the vice chair position.
Mm-hmm.
John, have I represented it clearly?
Absolutely. When I was on advisory, I was the chair of advisory for like 3 years. And after the first year, or maybe the second, we brought in a vice chair just because there's going to be times when Rob's not going to be able to make a meeting, for some unknown circumstance. And instead of canceling, it's just easy to have the vice chair pretty much just run the meeting. And that's pretty much it. I will say that I was vice chair and then to Tom Collins, and then he left, and then I was chair for 2 years after that. But So that could happen, but I was, it was just an acting chair position for a while, but I don't think Rob's going anywhere. At least I hope not.
No,
But
I've got no plans on doing that.
It's
But
purely administrative of a meeting if Rob couldn't make it.
Mhm.
And I like Rob's idea that it might be grooming somebody for a later chance down the road, a year or two down the road, to think about being chair, because you'd have a little more experience at running a meeting or doing that, or saying, yeah, I'd like to do this, or absolutely no way.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for the clarity. I guess are you asking me if I would accept the nomination were it placed? Is that what you're asking?
I figured what I would do is ask you first if you were to be nominated, as opposed to putting someone else through the ringer to nominate you, and then have you say, no way in hell
Right.
am I doing that.
Nothing like asking me in the public meeting though, which is just great.
Yeah, it's on the agenda. I had to.
Yeah.
I would have just voted you in last week.
Well, I like Rob's approach better than yours,
No,
John.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Sure. I guess with the way you've described it, I'd be happy to accept the nomination were it to even happen.
Then I make a motion to nominate Alan as our vice chair.
I second it.
Okay, I'm going to do a roll call vote as I see them. Chris.
Just point of order. Don't you have to have discussion on it?
Oh, yes, sorry.
See,
That's
already a great vice
You're
chair.
so good at this.
Yeah, I should have just shut my mouth, I think.
Yeah. Sorry, any discussion on the nomination?
Yeah.
You muted yourself, John.
Sorry, Alan. You just want to make sure that Alan's okay with this.
Yes.
Okay, so seeing no discussion, I'm going to take the roll call vote. Chris,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
John,
Aye.
Michael, Alan.
I recuse myself.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes, so it's unanimous. And I will try not to burden you at all on this. It's just nice to know. Okay, administrative business continuation. The approval of the minutes for June 22nd, July 1st, and July 15th of 2021.
I think it's just, we don't have the minutes for July yet, so it's just approval of the draft minutes for June 22nd.
Okay, so just the approval of the minutes for June 22nd. Have people had the chance to see those?
I have one question about those, and I admittedly skimmed them shortly before the meeting. I did not read them in detail. I was looking over how the votes were counted when we had the joint planning board session, and I believe all of our votes were unanimous except for one, where I think Julie had voted not in favor of what the rest of the board did, but I didn't see that reflected. So I'm not sure either I missed it or it was recorded incorrectly. I'm not sure if anyone else saw that.
No, Alan, you're right. There's a correction on there on the number of votes that I have to just go back and double check. I just wanted to get these out to you. I was doing them on Sunday, and then I kind of went to the hospital instead. So I wanted to get them out to you, but I'll go back and check the. So if you want to do it with corrections as discussed, then we can. That might be one option.
Yeah, no, Alan, you are correct.
I just forget which particular vote it was. Julie might recall better than us, but
it's actually on line 80. It says roll call vote. A. Belenek, aye. Chris Robbins, aye. Jay Connolly, nay. Jay Wood, aye. I am missing from that vote, and Connolly did have a nay. So I think that should be either 4-1 on that. Claire, do you see the
Yep,
line?
I do. Yep, I do. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, so
Yes.
Julie,
Okay.
Julie actually said nay, but I was missing, so that vote should be 4-1.
Perfect.
But with that small edit, can I get a motion to approve the minutes with the change as noted?
I so move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote for the approval of minutes.
And
Chris.
just point of order, just discussion.
Oh, discussion. Son of a, I'm gonna remember these things.
You'll get that.
Any discussion? Any more discussion?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Roll call vote, moving towards the minutes. Chris,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Matt,
I'll abstain since I was not in attendance at the meeting.
John,
Aye.
Michael,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
and I'm yes as well. Okay. Do we have any unfinished business? No. Okay. Next on the agenda, new business. Do we have any public comment? I do notice that there are a couple of chat things in there. One of them was from Claire. You were going to do them Sunday. Sorry. Do
No,
I
I
have,
think we have, we have Mike, we have three attendees, Michael Weishen, Kevin Miller, and Marcy Jones. Michael has his hand up, so I'll allow him to talk.
okay, excellent.
Good evening. Nice to see you all. I have two questions for you. The first is fairly simple, and by the way, I should say for the record, Michael Weiss on 189 Cordoville Road, Southborough. My first question to you is a simple one, and it has to do with the timing of these design guidelines. And this is an historical commission question. When can we expect to see those?
Can I just comment on that? So there are draft design guidelines that are posted also on the EDC website, say under Downtown Initiative. They are from, I believe it was November 2020. Those were basically sent, discussed or briefly looked at, I don't know, Board of Selectmen, and they were sent to the Planning Board. Currently, after I guess Monday's public hearing, the Planning Board is basically re-looking at the design guidelines. They're taking the draft design guidelines that we provided, and they're looking at Hopkinton and Northborough's design guidelines. So the Planning Board has kind of created a working group. So they are working on those at the moment.
Okay, because that was not my understanding of attending that meeting. They seem to be awaiting them from you.
No, they have ours, and I think the working group is, I guess, Mimi Luttrell, Marnie Houlihan, together with Judy Barrett and the, I think it's the assistant town planner. They basically have our draft design guidelines from 2020, and they're working on those.
Well, then who actually approves these? Does the planning board approve these guidelines? Because again, when I asked them, that wasn't what the response I got, that they said this was an EDC thing for you to vote on.
So when did they say that it was an EDC thing?
Well, I forget exactly where it was in the meeting, but I asked repeatedly as to where these things were, and they said, if I remember this correctly, that they were awaiting these guidelines. So awaiting doesn't say to me that they're waiting for their own work.
And this wasn't like Monday's meeting, was it?
Yes, on Monday's meeting. And I could be confused here, but the Historical Commission has been waiting on these guidelines for a long time and also would like to have some say. And in fact, we will invite you hopefully to our next meeting so that we can talk a little more about this. But I didn't understand from the planning board that they felt that this was their final responsibility to develop these guidelines. So who is actually finally responsible in your view?
Marika, I'm happy to weigh in here too. This
Yeah.
is Julie Connolly. Sorry, I'm not on camera right now because my battery's dying. But yeah, we provided a draft just as sort of an example to the planning board. We specifically asked them, is this something as planning board you want to be in charge of? We think that makes sense. Sort of the two ways to do it are to either have a planning board that's in charge of it, or some municipalities set up a design review committee. The planning board said that they were not interested in that. They wanted to be in charge of it. They've made that perfectly clear. We've had multiple conversations about it. However, they did not, they have not publicly commented to my knowledge, and we've been following it on the draft that we provided. I know there have been subsequent conversations about it, but they have made very clear to us that they want to be in charge of this, where we think that's appropriate as well. And we support that. But this is certainly a planning board document that will be approved by the planning board. It will be administered by the planning board when projects come forth. So this is a planning board document.
So, but this isn't in fact part of this proposed bylaw, is it not?
It's referenced in there, and the way that the bylaw reads, it says that the planning board may promulgate a set of design guidelines. And we hope that they do, because we think that would enhance the bylaw and improve and certainly make sure that all the protections that we want are in place.
So then we should be talking to the planning board, is what you're saying.
I believe so, yes.
Okay. All right, that's my Historical Commission question. Thank you very much. We will pursue that. My second question goes to this sewage document that I had a chance to review while you guys were talking. One of the advantages of running an architectural firm is that I can read these things pretty quickly. So I did go over this and it's pretty clear what they're proposing. They're proposing a gravity system that feeds to a pumping station under Newton Street that crosses under the CXS crossing up to a parcel that's now owned by NSTAR with a small scale sewage plant up there. The cost of this is $3.28 million, which they're proposing be funded. They gave you some funding options as to how to do it, totally taxable to the taxpayers, et cetera, and so forth. But my question is, without this in place and an agreement by the people of Southborough, because I believe you said that you felt that this was not your responsibility and that this was a Department of Public Works responsibility or the selectman responsibility. Without that in place, all of this talk about this district is for naught, because you can't actually build it without the sewage concerned. Am I correct in that? There's no way that any of these plans can be done without addressing the sewage parcel problem. Is that a fair statement?
I just want to clarify that I don't think anyone said that this was not our responsibility, that this, I think maybe, I know there was a comment earlier tonight that talked about the stormwater drainage issue, I believe, and that we said was a DPW responsibility. So I just want to clarify that point.
Okay, so it's just a stormwater we're talking about. But this proposal, I mean, so, in order to get any of this the factuality of this accomplished, the actual building of this district, and this requires the actual implementation of an almost $4 million investment on the part of the taxpayers of Southborough. Is that a correct statement?
No, please forgive me, and and Marika, I want to allow you the opportunity to put in some information as well. But it is my belief that because this was a grant that we received from the state to do a feasibility study, if we were to put a type of system like that in Southborough, it could enhance the development opportunities that are already in place. Even with the zoning and the existing zoning and the proposed bylaw, people can still come forward with projects that are that can be built without the system. So it's not like a chicken or an egg. There are developments that can happen in the downtown without a system like this. However, a system like is a system that was proposed could enhance the potential density and the type of projects we might see there. So I don't think it's a correct statement to say that if the town of Southborough chose not to do a pumping station like that, that we couldn't see any development in our downtown. Marika, I don't want to speak for everyone here, but I believe that's pretty spot on.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. And there are examples. Now I'm kind of, I lose the name of the town, but there are other examples where, development has taken place. But if there would be a central wastewater system, you kind of have more options, but it doesn't mean you can't have any commercial activity or any meaningful investments if you don't.
Yes, but correct me if I'm wrong. The reason that the downtown has not been developed substantially is because there are very few, if any, perkable lots. There's a freshwater rivulet that runs down the center. There's all sorts of issues with drainage and runoff. That has really been the stalling factor in any type of development. And so without that, I mean, how much realistically, I mean, how many of these lots realistically can perk to take some of the type of development that you're talking about?
And what type of developments are we talking about?
Whatever you're proposing in this bylaw. I mean,
Yeah, so
commercial development.
Or, we are proposing, the uses are office spaces, commercial retail spaces. I mean, I don't see any issue with that.
No, but that's my question. How many of these lots currently would be available for construction, say that we did not go forward with this system, with this sewage system? How many of them can actually be built on under current regulations, given if the bylaw passes and we are able to do this commercial development?
Can I speak here for a second, Rob?
Yeah, yes, the chair recognizes Claire Reynolds.
Thank you. And
managed.
so I project managed this with getting the grant money. And I also worked with the Weston Sampson engineer. This was done as a feasibility study. This is not hard and fast what would be happening. A lot of it depends on what the zoning would be and what kind of businesses would go in there. So that, in other words, you had like first, for example, Moro's Cafe is on what they call a tight tank. It has to be pumped out once a month. There may be some businesses there who would also, instead of doing that, would want to tie into it. There may be residents who would want to tie into it, but it's all very fluid, not knowing what type of development would take place.
No, I understand that, but my point is what I'm trying to get across here is that the full potential of this district, as you stated, is mandated upon a fairly extensive sewage system paid for either by the town taxpayers or by the people who hook up to it, or they've proposed a variety of ways. I also note that the cost of this does not include the cost of the individual owners to hook up to that system, which is borne by the individual property owners. And in my experience, that's $15,000 to $30,000 a lot. So given the current state of spending money in the town of Southborough and our kind of fatigue with these large, big projects, I come back to you again. I understand this is a feasibility study, but let's say we pass this and we're all excited about it. What will it get us in the end without this major septic sewage system?
I think good.
Yeah, go ahead, Alan.
I think it gets us fewer of the array of options that are presented that could go in there. I think if you're trying to get us to say this is absolutely required to get all that development in there, I don't think that we're going to go ahead and say that. I think by this happening, it just opens the door for more than one type of development to happen. And if we don't, there are other uses that can happen. This is just, as you said, as has been said, a feasibility study. It is one data point to go into all of the things to consider for what could possibly happen here.
Can I add as well, when we worked with the Urban Land Institute back, I believe it was in maybe 2018 or 2019, they came and they did a case study, and they've worked with many communities like Southborough in doing projects like the one we're looking at, which is small scale revitalization. And they looked at all of the factors that they thought were obstacles to what we were looking to do, which again is fairly small scale. And the two main obstacles that they identified were the very antiquated zoning bylaw and the wastewater management. So those are where we've focused. Those have been the first phase focus of our efforts. So obviously the zoning bylaw is one of those two pieces, and we're doing the feasibility study as well. So I think that what we're doing with this is removing one of the major obstacles. And as you said, there are different avenues to implementing a system like the one that they're proposing. Oftentimes, and other communities have done this and found different ways to do it. Often it's done with private development money. If someone were to come in, or multiple individuals who are looking to do some projects were to come in, then they might fund a portion of it as well. We're not at all proposing that this is going to be something that's going to be borne by the taxpayers. We have not had nothing we have done to date has been borne by the taxpayers. We've been able to get some grant money that's been available. We've done a lot of legwork on our own as well, and take advantage of some programs that are out there. So I hope that's not what you're insinuating. That's not our intent. And again, removing one of the main obstacles will open up certain possibilities, and we hope to also solve for the other obstacle, which is the wastewater piece.
So first of all, I want to stress that I think you guys have all done a great job, and I'm not insinuating anything negative. However, my job in real life is to take potentiality and make it reality. And so, you earlier as a committee had talked about what things to address to the public that you need to correct as misconceptions. I'm pointing out to you what I think is a huge problem, because unless we do this whole sewage system, there needs to be some realistic answers as to, if we pass this bylaw, how many of these parcels would be realistically developable, and in what sort of way, given the fact that we have the very strict sewage and septic requirements in that part of the world, with terrible soil. The report detailed, in fact, that there was no other parcel essentially south in that whole Park Street thing that was even vaguely feasible to take this sewage treatment plant. I mean, and not only is there the cost, but we have that parcel for NSTAR would have to be taken by eminent domain. The pumping station would have to be placed under the CSX tracks, which would require them to rebuild that entire crossing. And who would pay for that is unclear. Plus, we would impinge, I believe, on their planned reconstruction of Main Street, because that would all have to be torn up again in order to do these sewage lines. So there's a lot of questions here. And I think that the viability of this sewage thing now, in my personal opinion, is not huge. But I would like to know, as someone who supports this whole idea of downtown renovation, what happens if we don't do that? What is our second best option? What can we get for the money of this bylaw, essentially? So that would be my public comment to you and my suggestion. You can do with it what you wish, but I know this question will come up again. I want to thank you all. I really do appreciate all the work you've done.
Michael, thank you. I think one of the things that, given the size of the downtown, I think you make a very apt point that there are fewer developable lots than people think. There's at least one that is empty, that had a proposal for a mixed-use development on it that was turned down by the planning board. And that I came in, I believe, and John, you'll have to correct me. That's the Peter Bemis property, and it had been discussed soon after I had joined the board. That was a Southborough-based business that had an empty lot that was looking to develop it and potentially put in mixed use. So there's at least one lot down there that, should it have been developed back in 2017 or 2018, would be paying property taxes right now, and potentially we would not be having this zoning discussion. So I know there's at least one there. But to your point, Michael, we always appreciate people coming in with new ideas and kind of new initiatives. And, you know, one of the things to also consider, if as things go forward, any positions open up on the EDC, we'd always be interested in potentially having more people with expertise coming to the table as well. So, Chris, I see your hand up. I just want to see if there are any other comments from the public. We have Kevin Miller, Marcy Jones, and Mimi. Let's see.
No. See any comments?
Yeah. I see Michael with his hand still raised, but I'm assuming he doesn't have anything more to say, but I'm looking to the other people. And if there's no comment from there, Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, now I may not be correct on this, but Peter Bemis is suing the town because of that denial of the permit to build.
I believe he
So-
dropped that lawsuit.
Pardon me? Oh, he
I
dropped
believe
it?
that's been dropped.
Okay.
Okay. So I was just using that as an example that there is at least one lot in the downtown that could see development, and that could either be helped by the zoning change, or he could try to use the existing zoning. But
There's
with
other
that-
options as well. You know, besides, I mean, I believe when Claire initially had Paul Pazinski look into downtown and the septic systems there, I don't believe anybody's really in the failing zone right now. Like you said, there's a few tights. The other thing is the owner of Southborough Medical across the street, he has a wastewater underneath the solar farm. He already has a wastewater treatment plant under there that he said people could tie into, but it's limited to what businesses can go in. Like he doesn't want like a hair salon's chemicals going in there, I believe, Michael, and some different things. But he entertained the thought of different businesses downtown being able to tie into his system obviously for a fee. You might know more about that than I, Chris, but I thought Tony had said he would. I could be incorrect.
Yeah, I just want to to answer Michael's question, that yes, there are some developable lots. It's not as easy as one might assume, or else it would have happened in the intervening years since the last construction happened. And I think one of the things that we can do to fulfill our master plan is to work on the zoning to make it easier so we can see those different types coming in. And with that, and with no other comments from the public.
Mr. Miller has his hand up now.
Kevin has his hand up.
Okay, I'm sorry I missed that. Yes. Could I have Mr. Miller come in?
Oh. Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks very much. And I'm sorry to come very late to the party on that. I just had one question pursuant to your extended discussion about the map. I'm just confused and want to be clear, and I think it would help for the public record. Does everyone on this committee, are you all clear in the understanding that the creation of a downtown district creates a new map? That a downtown district would not be an overlay of new zoning rules on an old map. It is, as a matter of law, the creation of a new map. So if you're going to support a map in the shape of the old map, you're supporting the creation of a new map shaped again, in the image of the old map, but as a matter of law, and that was clarified early on by the town planner and affirmed by Mr. Costa, Attorney Costa, in public hearing, that this is a new map. So if you're going to go on record at some point, and it looks like it's a 4-2 vote, I hope Mr. Berger and Mr. Wood will have some influence in reshaping that. But at this point, it looks like you would be going on record supporting the creation of a new map in the shape of the former business village district. I just want to be clear that because the way you folks talk about it, perhaps it's just me, confuses me a little bit as to whether you're clear about what you're actually supporting. And I apologize if I'm misrepresenting your understanding, but I'm just confused about it and would appreciate the clarification.
Yeah, well, I think the ultimate map determination is going to be made by the planning board, and I think, and this is not me speaking on behalf of the full committee, but on my position as a member of the committee, that yeah, and I'm going to quote the WHO, meet the new map, same as the old map. It's the exact same boundaries. And I feel fully comfortable doing that, because there are certain things that can happen in the existing zoning that are available to happen in the new zoning. The one addition is the addition of mixed use, which falls back on one of the goals of the planning board, of the master plan. Forgive me for misspeaking. So I do understand that it is going to be a new map, but I am comfortable having the new map be the same shape and cover the same area as the old map. And that is me as a member of the committee, not speaking as the chair, nor speaking on behalf of my other members.
Understood. Thank you.
So for the rest of the committee, I feel comfortable taking that position because that is my belief. But I think at some point in time, when we have the feedback from the planning board and they ask for our opinion and we do take a vote, I think there'd be more discussion at that point in time. And with that, I think we have our next meeting scheduled for Thursday, September 2nd at 7:30. That's obviously subject to change depending upon availability and a quorum. And with that, do I have a motion to close the meeting, adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Okay, roll call vote. Chris.
Discussion.
Oh, discussion. I'm going to get it one of these times. Is there any discussion about the adjournment of the meeting?
None.
No. Okay, Chris.
Yes.
Alan.
Yes.
John.
Absolutely, yes, and you did a great job in your first time. You
Okay.
had maybe 2 process things. You did great. My first time was awful.
Oh, yeah.
You did so much better than I.
We're gonna speed it up next time. I'm gonna make sure I do that. Michael.
Yes, great job.
Matthew.
Yes.
Julie.
Yep. I did
Okay, excellent. Thanks everyone. I hope everyone has a nope, I was going to say have a good Labor Day, but it's before Labor Day, so I'll say that for the next meeting. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.